You know that cup of coffee you're holding? It's so much more than just a drink. It's actually the end result of this huge, fascinating cultural journey. Today, we're going to trace how coffee went from being just another thing in your pantry to a real craft. And it all happened through three distinct waves that completely changed how we think about it and drink it. So here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on what these waves even are. Then we're going to dive into the first wave, which brought coffee into our homes. After that, the second wave, which created the coffee shop scene we all know and love. And finally, the third wave, which is all about focusing back on the coffee bean itself. We'll even figure out what specialty coffee really means, and maybe most importantly, why all of this matters.
All right, so to really understand modern coffee, you can't just think of it chronologically. It's more like a series of, I don't know, cultural earthquakes. These were powerful movements that totally reshaped our entire relationship with this drink.
You've probably heard these terms thrown around, maybe at your local cafe: first wave, second wave, third wave. And yeah, it can sound like a bunch of insider jargon, but it's actually a really simple and honestly a pretty brilliant way to map out how our coffee culture has grown up. This timeline really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? Back in the 30s, the first wave was all about making coffee a staple in every kitchen. Then, come the 70s, the second wave turned coffee into a social event, something you did outside the home. And then, around the 2000s, the third wave completely shifted the focus back to the bean itself, treating it with the same kind of respect you'd give a fine wine. So let's jump in, right at the beginning, the first wave. This is the moment coffee stopped being this kind of luxury item you'd only find in fancy European cafes and became something you could have right there on your kitchen counter. The first wave was really driven by one big idea: accessibility. The goal wasn't amazing quality, it was convenience. It was about getting coffee into as many homes as possible. And sure, inventions like the French press and the mocha pot were a big deal, but the real game changer? Instant coffee. And get this, it came about because of a wild problem. Brazil had so much extra coffee, they were literally about to dump it in the ocean. So they asked Nestle to figure out a way to preserve it. Crazy, right? Okay, so after decades of people just making coffee at home, the culture was getting ready for a big change. The second wave wasn't about the coffee bean. Not really. It was all about the experience you had around the coffee. And this is where the Starbucks effect really takes off. They just perfected this idea of the coffee shop as a third place. You know, that reliable spot that's not home and it's not work. It's where you could hang out, meet friends, or get some work done. All of a sudden, going out for coffee was this public ritual, and we were all learning this new Italian-sounding coffee language. But this massive growth had a pretty serious downside. As a few huge companies started to dominate the market, they began treating coffee like any other bulk good, like corn or oil, which drove prices way, way down. This absolutely squeezed the farmers at the very beginning of the supply chain, making it almost impossible for them to make a living. And this intense pressure, well, it was basically setting the stage for a full-blown rebellion. And that rebellion is exactly what the third wave is. It was a direct response to that mass market, let's make it all taste the same approach of the second wave. It was all about bringing the focus back to where it should have been all along, the coffee itself. This right here is the absolute heart of the shift. The spotlight swung from the brand experience and consistency to the bean's unique origin and all its amazing flavors. So, gone were those super dark, oily roasts that were designed to taste the same every time. The third wave embraced lighter roasts to finally let the bean's true character, its story, where it came from, shine through. This radical new focus on the potential of the bean, it gave birth to a whole new movement and a whole new vocabulary. People stopped talking about just coffee, and they started talking about specialty coffee. Okay, so what does that term actually mean? Because it's not just some fancy marketing buzzword you see on a bag. Specialty coffee has a real, technical definition that sets a super high bar for quality. It all starts with a formal grading system. The Specialty Coffee Association, or the SCA, uses this 100-point scale to score coffee on everything you can imagine: aroma, flavor, acidity, body, you name it. It's a seriously rigorous process. And 80 is the magic number. To officially be called specialty, a coffee has to score 80 points or higher. Anything below that is just considered regular, commodity-grade coffee. So that score is like the first, most important gateway to quality. But beyond just the score, the real spirit of specialty coffee is total transparency. Think of it like an ID card for your coffee. You should be able to know everything about it. Where was it grown? Who grew it? How was it processed? When was it roasted? This kind of traceability connects you, the drinker, directly to the coffee's origin story. This quote, it just perfectly sums up that old second wave way of thinking, right? The goal was consistency, and the easiest way to get that was to roast the beans super dark, basically burning away any of their unique, natural flavors. But third wave roasters, they completely threw that idea out the window. They realized that a great coffee bean already has a whole universe of flavor inside it, notes of fruit or flowers or chocolate. So their job wasn't to create flavor by burning it, but to carefully preserve it with a lighter roast. It became a celebration of what makes each bean unique, not a way to cover it up. Okay, so this all sounds really cool for coffee aficionados, but you might be wondering, why does this shift to specialty coffee actually matter for the industry as a whole, from the farmer growing the beans all the way to you? Well, the most important thing is that it creates this incredibly powerful positive cycle. See, when we pay more for higher quality coffee, we give farmers a real reason to produce it. That extra income lets them reinvest in their farms, in better equipment, in sustainable methods, which in turn helps them produce even better coffee. It's this awesome chain where everybody wins, right down to the person holding the cup. So when you boil it all down, specialty coffee creates a much more fair and equitable system. Producers can actually earn a stable, decent living, often through direct trade that cuts out the middlemen. And for us, we get access to this huge world of incredible flavors that, for a long time, were totally hidden by dark roasts and mass production. It really is a true win-win. So, from a simple can of instant coffee all the way to a single origin pour-over that has its own biography, the evolution of coffee has been pretty incredible. Which really just leaves one question. The next time you take a sip, will you be tasting just a drink? Or will you be tasting its entire journey?